Okay, yeah, we just had a quick little poll here. Just curious what people are thinking as to when the PSTN here in the US is going to go away. It's going to be interesting to see what everybody thinks about that. And let's see here. Wow, 44% think it's going to be 10 to 20 years, and only 11% think 2 to 10 years. 22% 20 years, and 22% never. Fascinating. Um, I, I'm not. I don't know if I agree. I'm not sure where things are going to go here, but it's going to be an interesting ride for sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and get things started here. All right. So again, my name is Kerry Garrison. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here. And today we're going to talk about the toll-free exchange and what it is, who it's for, and then we'll do a demo of the interface later on. If you have any questions along the way, please use the questions box in the GoToWebinar interface there. That way we can see the questions and we'll try and answer them as we go, or if it's appropriate, we'll hang on to it till the end. But please use the questions box to ask any questions there, and we'll see if we can make sure everything gets answered for you. So let's get moving here. What is the toll-free exchange? It is a system that allows toll-free calls to go between responsible organizations. Now, of course, we're already doing that with the PSTN, but that is a much more complicated system than what the toll-free exchange offers. We're going to show you how this makes it a lot easier and I think a preferable way of doing things than the existing way. Now, the toll-free exchange runs on the backbone of two networks. In the United States, it runs off of Teliax's nationwide network, and in Canada, it works off of Allstream's network. So we do have full coverage in the United States and in Canada. So if you have any questions about toll-free coverage in those areas, then be sure and let us know and we can get you set up either way. Now, who is the toll-free exchange for? Well, the two main focuses here are going to be carriers, and carriers can increase their revenue, they can cut costs, improve their call quality with the toll-free exchange, and enterprises who have call centers with a good amount of toll-free traffic, because the cost of getting that toll-free calls coming in is going to be much lower than the traditional way of doing it. So an enterprise can reduce the costs, improve the call quality, and manage their billing and costs much easier. The toll-free exchange, as I'm going to mention a lot, is about lowering costs and increasing revenue. Better call quality because it's going over a SIP trunk instead of multiple layers over the PSTN. You'll see in the demo how the routing control works and the analytics work and how simple it is to do the billing. You're just going to get one statement that has everything instead of having to deal with all kinds of different bills from all over the place. The toll-free exchange is going to make your life significantly easier. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the old way of doing things. You have your carriers that are sending a call to a tandem, which is going over the PSTN, over to an IXC, out to the responsible organization, and finally out to that end user or enterprise call center. And of course, the money flow comes back in the opposite direction, with each piece along the way snagging a little piece of that pie for themselves. This increases the costs, it increases the amount of failure points, and there's just a lot of middlemen involved that can cause problems along the way. Well, the toll-free exchange is a better way of doing things. At least we think so. So how does our way compare? Well, it's much simpler. Carriers connect to the toll-free exchange over a single SIP trunk, making it extremely easy to get up and running. And that connects directly to the responsible organization on the other side and right to their customer. So there's a much simpler call flow going from the calling party to the called party, which means lower costs. So that reflects going back in the other direction. So the carriers are recouping more revenue, but everyone along the way is saving money. So it's a much better business model than the other way. And without all those middlemen involved, you have higher quality and all the benefits of being a SIP network. Now, why would you want to use the toll-free exchange? Well, there's a lot of challenges to the way things work and our solutions to them. Now, apparently, based on the poll, not everyone is convinced that the lifespan of the PSTN is finite. I happen to believe it is, as we have solutions to get rid of the PSTN that will probably help get rid of it down the road. Of course, IP enablement is the future of toll-free calling. It's only a matter of time, whether it's us that does it or someone else that does it. We have the solution today to IP-enable toll-free calling. Feature Group D networks are getting more expensive to maintain and require peak period capacity, while IP networks are much more cost efficient. From the caller to the destination with existing infrastructure, there's a lot more destinations with many more links in that chain, while the toll-free exchange minimizes those points of failure and eliminates additional cost points. Billing and cabs collection is extremely complex, while the toll-free exchange provides a single monthly billing statement, and responsible organizations set their own pricing structures. And you'll see the deal center where you can actually negotiate individual rates with different responsible organizations and fine-tune that billing to your particular needs. Responsible organizations want to be billed correctly at fair prices, and then responsible organizations get to set their own pricing structures. So you can set your ceiling and your sell rate and go from there. And if you need to adjust it, you can do that on the fly. The existing system creates numerous legal issues. Well, the toll-free exchange is all commercial and there's no tariffs. So it's a much simpler business model and network model. Existing systems are complex and time-consuming to provision, while the toll-free exchange is extremely easy. It's centralized provisioning, net settlement, and analytics. The PSTN has multiple points of failure, while the toll-free exchange offers redundancy while streamlining the network. The PSTN has fraud everywhere. There's fraud all over the toll-free market, and it's difficult to track down and it's difficult to stop. The toll-free exchange works to isolate offenders and makes remediation a lot quicker. So there's a lot of benefits to using the toll-free exchange. We'll move over to some of the business reasons, the macroeconomics, moving revenue from the big three to the responsible organizations themselves really levels the playing field. You're getting rid of those middlemen who are all going to take a piece of the puzzle, and businesses can set their own business models. They can set their rates. They can negotiate with other REST boards to create a business model that works between the two of them. 8YY originated traffic is compensated directly by the terminating REST board. It's no longer just a LEC-controlled revenue stream. You can increase RPU on 8YY origination by eliminating the middle networks and conjured rules of engagement. It's a much simpler way of doing things. And of course, video, voice, and messaging technology has all advanced, and desperate TDM networks are very limited in their ability to work with the newer technologies. We can decrease costs because the pricing is set by the originating REST board lower than the average LATA, OCN kick holders. The network expense is far less with fewer networks involved and zero TDM required. You're only doing a single IP trunk group to the exchange, not one per interconnected entity. So your setup, your management, configuration, much easier than it ever was before. And you can control costs by setting those ceiling rates so that the business is never exposed. Now we get to simplify billing and enable modern features. There's no LATA OCN or NPAN XX pricing based off the ANI of a call. REST board pricing can be negotiated individually. And again, we're going to show you that when we do a demo of the interface. There's a deal center to help you negotiate prices. All the billing is settled net of originating and terminating expense. And analytics are provided in real time for mediation and analysis. So you do get really good analytics with the toll-free exchange. Because this is working over a single SIP trunk, we have high definition voice and native video between disparate networks. So hope this has given you kind of an overview of what the toll-free exchange is, what it's used for, and how it's all implemented. Now, this is all patented, and it's no one else can do this. This REST-board peering is a patented technology that is exclusively licensed to the toll-free exchange. So now I'm going to bring on board David Aldworth, the CEO of the company. He can elaborate on some of this, and he is the one that's going to do the demo of the interface here.
Thanks, Gary.
David, you're with us? There you go.
Okay,
So,
great.
is there anything that you wanted to add to what I've already said about the toll-free exchange?
No, I think you did a great job. Thanks a lot. The toll-free exchange is really intended to be pretty simple. We're removing the carrier identification code requirement to connect toll-free phone calls, and instead replacing that with an authoritative data routing point, which is simply the REST-board ID. The evolution of toll-free and the PSTN to an IP-enabled environment is what's really allowed this to exist. So here we are in a world where we're all moving towards IP, and there are going to be consistent new innovations that allow us to take advantage of that environment. One of those is REST-board to REST-board routing through an exchange, such as what we're presenting to you here today. We think it's just a better way of doing things. And I want to say from the get-go that the toll-free exchange exists to benefit the responsible organization solely. The business model of the toll-free exchange is not one that is meant to do anything beyond help put more money into the hands of the end users, both originating and terminating the calls. And so with that, I'll dive into a quick demo of the portal. I noticed nobody's asked any questions yet. I really prefer these types of discussions not to have everybody on mute. I like when people can kind of virtually raise their hand and just ask a question. Nonetheless, that's the way this one works. So many people involved. So if you do have a question, please don't hesitate to type it in the window, and I'll be happy to interrupt me virtually, and I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Okay. While you're putting that together, David, there was a question on redundancy. What exactly does that mean when we say redundancy?
Sure. So the toll-free exchange is not a replacement for a PSTN solution where you've got one of the major inter-exchange carriers providing your service via a KIT code, or multiple carriers in your template via a KIT code. It's an overlay. And when we say redundancy, what we mean is if there is an issue on an existing way of routing your toll-free phone call, say somebody's SS7 network goes down, or there's a major fiber cut on a backbone somewhere, and those calls aren't completing, the toll-free exchange REST-board peering survives. It continues to route those calls. So to the extent that there is redundancy that is an objective of one of your customers or of your organization, the toll-free exchange does provide that sort of opportunity as an overlay.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you're logging in here so we can see the interface.
Okay, you can see my screen. Good. Okay, so this, I'm at the toll-free exchange website. I'm going to log in as myself. Real quick, this is the landing page that you get to when you first log into the exchange. These are your responsible organizations that are managed by your user. It's pretty easy to add all of your responsible organizations or one at a time into the exchange. You're going to put it in here. There's going to be a form field validation that makes sure that that REST org ID does actually exist. We're going to shoot an email off to the Somos registered responsible organization contact to validate that you indeed do have the authority to access that responsible organization. So we piggyback a couple of things in that regard. Number one, we're making sure that only the right people are getting access to the toll-free exchange portal for routing. But number two, we're sort of riding on the shoulders of the validation process that you go through in order to become a responsible organization. Obviously, prevention of fraud is one of the objectives of the toll-free exchange, and transparency as well. And so since you've already had to go through that gambit, we're just validating that you're part of the club. When you get in here, you add your REST org ID. You're going to add a couple of very important values. Obviously, you're going to add your IP addresses because all the SIP trunking is done dynamically in real time. But you can add a default cell rate and ceiling rate. The exchange does work with the concept of both originating and terminating traffic. That is, you can send your traffic to the toll-free exchange and you can receive traffic from the toll-free exchange. Now, there's an economic value to both of those legs of the call. So your cell rate is essentially the rate that you expect to be paid for sending your toll-free traffic to the toll-free exchange. And this is the rate that the recipient of that call is going to pay. For example, if I'm Teliax and I'm sending a call to Twilio or Vonage and I enter 003 per minute, then that is the rate without any markup, without any additional cost or fee that Vonage or Twilio will pay. They will pay that 003. There is no other hand in the honeypot, so to speak. The cell rates, this is very important, are published, which is to say, if there's 300 responsible organization IDs on the exchange, each with a different cell rate, we are publishing those cell rates out to all of the participants of the toll-free exchange on a monthly basis. That is information that is openly shared. However, the second rate, the second economic value, of course, comes in the savings that you receive from the exchange when a toll-free call is terminated to your REST org ID. You do have cost control mechanisms. Actually, you have several cost control mechanisms. The primary one is what we refer to as the default ceiling rate. That's this last value here. Just putting it as 0.5, for example. No, not 5 cents. Hold on. This is the highest rate that you're willing to pay in order to receive a toll-free phone call from the exchange. These rates are not published. They're not published because we're preventing cherry picking. We don't want people to say, oh, David's willing to accept 005. Well, I'm just going to set my rate to the max. Of course you would. But the default selling rate is not published. So you, as an entity sending traffic to the toll-free exchange, do not get to see what the maximum rate a recipient would accept. You do have the ability to do this on an individual basis, not just as a blanket default. When I say individual, it's on a REST org to REST org grouped basis. And you also have the ability to do something we call cost control, which is that you can load up your existing OC and LATA or NPNXX rates, and the toll-free exchange will essentially play traffic cop. It will accept calls where the rate is less than your maximum allowed rate. Couple of additional features toll-free exchange provides. Obviously, the objective here is to peer calls, but you can have the toll-free exchange accept all of your traffic if you so wish, including for compensation. Those calls, if they cannot be peered, will go to the PSTN. And then the last one is the receive kick code. What happens here is that if you send a call to the toll-free exchange cannot peer that call. We can return value by returning a 302 redirect with the kick code in the call so that you can then route that call to the IXC of record. Moving along, this is an existing configured REST org ID. This is a Teliax REST org ID. You can see I've got a number of IP addresses in here where I am going to ask the toll-free exchange to accept traffic from me, basically an ACL whitelist. If I want to receive traffic from the toll-free exchange, I have the ability, obviously, to change my rate anytime, but also to set up multiple trunks coming to me. I've just got one trunk group in here with 2 IP addresses. It'll round robin between those 2. I can set up as many as I like, and I can also 10-digit route to those trunk groups. So if you've got an East Coast SBC and a West Coast SBC and you want to route those calls separately, the same way that the IXC would on your existing Verizon portfolio or AT&T A-Voices or whatever you've got toll-free service, the exchange will 10-digit route in addition to REST org ID based routing. Here we've got the individual cell rates. So what you see here is a long list of REST org IDs that I'm actively peering with, and every single one of those has a different rate. And these are probably negotiated rates. I'm not going to let you look at that too long. And then my individual ceiling rate, apparently whoever NVT01 is, I'm have 005 individual ceiling rate. And this is just some information about getting traffic to and from the toll-free exchange. That's basically the configuration options in a nutshell that you would have on a per REST org ID basis. Again, every single REST org ID has all of those options baked into it. And so you can route your traffic in many different ways. You can rate your traffic in many different ways. And you can obviously do all of the individual rates as well. I'm not going to go through every single one of these menu options. There are quite a few things that you can do. I think for this particular audience, the most interesting portal features are going to be the invoicing, the deal center, and then the reporting. So I will just cover those on this webinar. Obviously the invoices, what we do here with the invoices is a net settlement. So you've got traffic that you are going to send to the exchange for which you accept compensation. And then you've got traffic that you may be receiving from the exchange for which you accept a bill. The toll-free exchange nets those 2 amounts. So we do act as a billing and settlement net biller. So here I've got a recent invoice that pulls up in a PDF. You're going to get all the details for all of your traffic, including all of the originating groupings by REST org ID and REST org ID pairs, the attempts, the minutes, the rates, the fee. So the toll-free exchange, I might take a minute just to touch on that. The toll-free exchange charges 0.005 per minute of use on the originating side of the call only. So going back to my original example, if you've got Teliax sending traffic to Vonage at 003, Vonage pays 003, the exchange takes 0.005 fee, and Teliax nets 0.025 as the sender of that call. And that's it. There's no more complexity to the billing than that. So on this invoice, you can see here I've got all of the groupings. This is the sending side, originating. This is the terminating side. So Teliax both sends and receives traffic through the toll-free exchange. That's it for billing. Moving on, reporting. There is a performance dashboard in here with a lot of interesting information. So for originating traffic, this would be traffic that is sent to the toll-free exchange by your REST org. I can do some fun, quick analysis if I want to see the traffic that was sent in the last 2 days. I can pull this report. You can see I've sent traffic. So this REST org ID here at EX01 has sent traffic to 5.9, about 1 million minutes, a little less. I can see traffic that was sent where it did not complete because the ceiling rate set by the recipient was lower than my cell rate. I don't get to see, I just know that the calls didn't complete, and I know what my rate was. So what this says is, if you want these calls to complete, you might want to consider lowering your rate or doing a deal with that particular rest board, and we'll cover that one in just a second. I can also see traffic that was sent to the toll-free exchange that didn't complete because it was going to a responsible organization that doesn't participate. So this is my, hey, you have an opportunity to reach out to AUB02 or RBI69 and ask them if they would like to receive traffic from you across the toll-free exchange, because in the last 2 days you sent them 15,214 attempts, which could have appeared directly, potentially at a discount to them, but they didn't because they weren't on the exchange. Terminating traffic is just the other way around. This is just traffic that was sent to my RESTborg ID where it came from. Otherwise, the reports are essentially the same. You can get overall traffic that is associated to your invoices. So if you want to export your call records, you can export those records in CSV or EMI or PDF format. There is a live report. You can see calls on the exchange right now. And then this is your CDR export with filters. I don't think any more explanation than that is needed there. The deal center, there isn't going to be a whole lot of data in here, but the deal center is pretty cool. And what it allows you to do is, if we go back to RESTborg configuration, and I click on my primary RESTborg ID, and I say that I would like to sell to CKC01 at 0.005. If I hit add here, it's going to send CKC001 or 01, the administrator of the account, a note that says, hey, Toll-Free Exchange is sending you an email. NEX01 would like to send you traffic at 005. Do you accept? And that's going to show up in their deal center. If they click accept, either through the email or through the portal, traffic is immediately paired up and will complete through the toll-free exchange. It's just that easy. If you want to counter, you can also counter and say, well, that's a little high. Maybe 004 would be acceptable. You can do that through the exchange, and there's email notifications and allows you to make those pairs immediately. Further, I can block individual RESTborgs here if I don't like the traffic that I'm getting from NVT02. I can click block and it'll immediately block that traffic and filter out any further attempts. Now, it doesn't prevent the calls from going through the PSTN. But again, the toll-free exchange provides a lot more control over your traffic than you're going to get from a traditional IXC route. And this is one way that we do it. What else was I going to add about the rates here? Oh, the rate notification interval is 30 days, which is to say that you'll never get surprised by a rate change on the toll-free exchange. You cannot slip one in, so to speak. The rates are on 30-day notification intervals. So if you look at this main screen here, you'll see that there's several sell rate stages, if you will. If I go in and change my sell rate to 005 right now, it's going to get sent around in the published rates on the 1st of March. It will not be effective until the 1st of April. So the 30-day notification and effective interval gives all of the folks on the toll-free exchange ample time to see what sort of rates are coming down, in addition to the fact that rates can be, ceiling rates can be set, and you'll know that you will never receive a call from the toll-free exchange that is higher than either your existing lease cost based on LRN or OC and LATA, or your default ceiling rate, unless you set up an individual negotiated commercially rate and traffic can be exchanged that way. And again, the exchange does all of this for you. So all of the control, all the routing, all of the rating, billing, settlement, it's all done through the exchange. And from a technical standpoint, all the transcoding. So all of the SMS, all of the HD video, all of the HD voice, all of the transcoding G729 to G711, the T38, the stir shaken support. It's all implemented through the exchange. That is really about all I have, unless there is a portion of the portal in particular that anybody would like to see. So feel free to raise your hand, ask a question through the chat, and I will spend a little more time on that portion. But with that, that is essentially the portal. And I'll turn it back over to Carrie for any questions.
Thanks, David. Excellent job, as always. So we hope that this has given you an insight into what the toll-free exchange is and what it's all about, and how the interface works, how you can negotiate deals, and really why we think that this is an important thing for everybody out there, from carriers to call centers. Let's see, we got a question here. Trouble ticket visibility in the portal?
Yes, there is a support mechanism through the portal, and you can, right here, if you do open tickets to the portal, you can open a ticket, you can see the status of your ticket, you can respond to tickets, and there's actually even a method in here to add, you can actually go out and grab the individual call directly from your call records. It will automatically attach that to the ticket along with a capture from our monitoring system so that our techs can do an evaluation. And then you'll get a response, both an email and here in the portal, and you can manage everything right there.
Great. Excellent question, Nathan. Anybody else? Okay. Well, you definitely know how to reach all of us here at the Toll-Free Exchange. And should anything come up, be sure and hit us up, and we can do a one-on-one with you or help with any other issues that you might have. And I think we've got a few more questions here, David.
Okay.
If somebody is disputing their settlement costs, how does that affect the other sender receiver?
That's a great question. So the Toll-Free Exchange is not a bank. The Toll-Free Exchange is a billing, hearing, and settlement service. So you get visibility into, so you're sending 100 calls into the Toll-Free Exchange. Those 100 calls are going to 10 different responsible organizations downstream. Each of those 10 different responsible organizations owes $1, but only 9 of them pay their dollar on time. When you get your statement, you're going to receive that $9, and you're going to see that the one who didn't send their payment in on time is ABC01. So you get the transparency of who did not pay their bills when they use the exchange. Here's the thing that we've noticed in doing this for the past 7 years. The economics of the exchange more or less guarantee payment. You're not going to use the exchange unless you're making more money by sending traffic or saving money by receiving traffic. Meaning, if you don't want to pay your bill and therefore don't get to use the exchange, well, then you can just go back to paying more money and receiving less. But the economics sort of guarantee everybody pays their bills, and our experience has been that they do, because it's more expensive if you don't.
Okay, and I guess a follow-up to that is, if the invoice is not getting paid, does the rest board get paid?
Yes, Nathan, it's mad. No, that last question came from Annie, well, Annie, so there's a one-to-many relationship in the toll-free exchange, and it's entirely possible that of those many, somebody doesn't pay on time. It's, like I said, not been my experience that they don't. They usually do, because if they don't, then they'll just increase their costs elsewhere. But yes, if the receiving rest board does not pay their bill, then that information shows up on your monthly statement that is issued by the toll-free exchange, and you'll be able to see. And you can take appropriate action. You can say, well, then I don't want the exchange to accept my traffic that's going to Acme, because Acme's not paying their bills. Well, first of all, the toll-free exchange billing group is going to be addressing that issue if there is an issue to address, number one. Number two, you have the control of the ability to say, well, I still want the exchange to peer my traffic, but I don't want it to go to Acme. You can very easily make that change.
Okay, so she's following up with this one with, so is the toll-free exchange guaranteeing the payment to the rest board?
No, the exchange is not a bank. We do not guarantee that somebody sending traffic to the toll-free exchange we're not guaranteeing your payment on the receiving organization's behalf. Everybody that comes to the exchange agrees to the exact same terms of service. There is a click wrap agreement that you agree to when you sign up for the exchange, and everybody plays by the exact same rules, and you are paid based on recovered revenue. And I will just reiterate for the third time, in 7 years, never been an issue because it works out better for everybody to receive and send traffic on the exchange. There have been disputes over the validity of traffic before. And typically what happens in that case is somebody says, well, all the traffic coming from so-and-so seems to have no media. So I don't want to receive traffic from that rest port. Either side of the call can block traffic. So if somebody doesn't want to receive Acme's traffic, they can block it. If Acme doesn't want the exchange to accept traffic going to a certain rest port, they can block it. So like I said, the controls as well as the economics built into the exchange make it such that most folks see the value and want to participate. The rest board is getting hit with fraudulent traffic. How does the disputing process go? Well, if a receiving responsible organization says, I think that I'm getting a lot of fraudulent traffic, then they're going to open up a ticket with the exchange, which we are essentially going to relay to the original, and this is all transparent, which we are going to relay to the upstream carrier. Transparency is a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here. So if Kroger doesn't want to or doesn't like the traffic that they're receiving from Walmart, I'm just using names everybody's going to recognize, then Kroger could open a ticket with the toll-free exchange and say, hey, this traffic seems bad. We're going to take a look at it and we're going to say, well, all of your call examples came from Walmart. So we're going to open up a ticket with Walmart and see what's up. And we're going to tell Kroger that the traffic came from Walmart. And then Walmart can say, oh, sorry, we'll get that fixed. Or maybe Kroger says, stop sending calls to me from Walmart. Easily done. The party does have to be a rest board, yes. One of the questions here is, does the sending party have to be a rest board? Or can any wholesaler can provide it? The answer is the sending party does need to be a rest board. As I said earlier, we validate participants by them having gone through the Somos rest board process. So as many of you know, when you go to become a rest board, you have to be trained by Somos, essentially on how to use their system, similar to what you have to do in order to use the toll-free exchange. So yes, you do have to be a have a responsible organization ID. You have to be able to validate that responsible organization ID when you go to sign up before you can send traffic to the toll-free exchange. There are some partner entities we work with. One of them is ATL. Maybe you guys have heard of ATL before. If you don't have a responsible organization ID, there's definitely some folks out there that can help. One more question here. It's a long question. What is the ballpark percentage of current toll-free exchange MOU that is enterprise versus wholesale? Great question. If you think, so when I think of wholesale, I think of like a toll-free aggregator, of which Teliax is a toll-free aggregator, right? There are many others. Versus say an enterprise would be like Delta Airlines, or even, Five9 or In Contact, right? Those are enterprise service providers and platforms that are used to provide the service they're providing that happens to be call-based. I would say the majority of the folks sending traffic are wholesale responsible organizations, and the majority of the folks receiving traffic are actually enterprise. Percentage would be on the sender side. I'm just gonna finger in the air. 75% of the traffic that's being sent is probably coming from wholesale service providers, and 75% of the traffic that's being terminated is going to enterprises.
Okay, those were some great questions, everybody. Really appreciate you, jumping in there with some stuff to help get some clarification on everything. David, great job. Really appreciate you taking the time to help out on this. And this will be recorded and it will be up on our YouTube channel. You'll get a link probably later today with the location of that if you want to go back and rewatch it later. But I want to thank you all for joining us, and we'll probably have some more webinars in the near future to really get everyone on board with what we're doing here. Can you get a copy of the presentation? Yes, I will figure out how to send that out to everybody. That's not a big deal. But yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone.
We'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.